Hello model car fans, welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Ral, and this week's build here I'm featuring, this is my 65 Dodge Coronet altered wheelbase funny car. This is the Dave Strickler's Coronet, and this is a Model King issue from Moebius Models, and this was provided by my sponsor Hobby Dump Models as well. And fun kit, great kit, and I really enjoyed it. And being that I built the other two Plymouth Golden Commandos, which I'll show those briefly towards the end of this too, but those have been on the channel and shown. But this one, I was looking forward to it coming out, and I really enjoyed building the other two. I was just looking forward to it, and decided that I was going to build it, and it was a fun, quick build actually. So, but these cars, to me, my interest in the factory drag muscle cars were, the ones that you can buy right from the dealership, with the correct options, and if you had the right connections, buy those. But they were, factory looking cars, and those to me, the early 60s cars and the factory lightweights, I always thought those were interesting, and it was mainly because they looked stock, but they had all of this, technology or engineering or cheating. It's technically not cheating if it's not in the rule books. It's just, creative thinking and problem solving. But, these cars, but my interest in those cars, tend to dwindle down after 64, because I liked all of those, thought they were really cool. Up to that point, the Thunderbolt was my favorite, being raced forward, and that was just one wild car. But other than the hood, gave a pretty much a stock appearance, even though, it had lightweight and fiberglass and all these other things. But by 65, they were outlawing fiberglass panels and stuff. So, like these cars, a lot of it was aluminum or whatnot. But, the rules kept changing, and that kind of interested me, and it kind of didn't interest me. But these altered wheelbase cars, to me, the term funny really did apply to me. I thought they looked funny. Couldn't imagine anybody driving them on the street, or anybody, seeing them and thinking, oh, that's a stock car. And you see the wheelbase is altered as it is. But it was the first of the funny cars. And, that was kind of where my interest weaned off. But, every now and then reading about certain race cars and that stuff, the fact that these were like the Chrysler engineers were involved in it. They had these physics theories about if they move this, they move that, they can make the weight transfer around, and they can have it work to their advantage, get better traction, and all of these theories. So reading about some of those, got my interest more into these particular cars, and the actual, the fact that Chrysler was behind them and they let them do these things, and there really wasn't a class for them, but they were definitely different. And, finding out if their theories actually worked. And, to many people's surprise, it did. But these things, they progressed so fast. So, going from the altered wheelbase and having the carbureted Hemis to the injected Hemis to swapping out the 8 3/4 rear ends that they came with, putting Danas in them, keeping track of, what happened at races. And, when it came to that kind of stuff, it's interesting, but I have a lot more of that history on the Dick Landy car in my Dick Landy book, about his progression, what he did to his car and the racing, and how they looked at like each race. The Dave Strickler car here, didn't quite find that much about it. Matter of fact, when you kind of Google it, you run into a lot more about the model kit now than you do the actual car. But I did find the restored car online, and I went with that, and I enjoyed that. And the directions kind of point you in that direction with how the model is built and everything, and the options on it. So I decided that was going to be pretty much my inspiration, not a specific point in time, how it looked at a certain race when it did its best, because I really wasn't finding much on the history. But at that point, I was just more enjoying the build and having a good old time with it. And that's where I decided to stay with this particular one. But we'll get more into that. But let's take it outside, see how she looks in the sun and everything with this bright white 65 Dodge paint that I used from Scale Finishes in the Automotive Clear. So we'll take it out and see how she looks in the sun. Well, here we are out in the Arizona sun, looking at this Dodge 65 white here. on this Dave Strickler 65 Coronet. Looking pretty good. I like those decals and that grill. I like the way that grill detailed out. Really looks good. A lot of these are plain white and not the fanciest paint jobs, but the lettering on this thing and a lot of the decals, they're just really cool. Just nice, clean, presentable car. But I like the way this one really came out with that scale finishes paint, that automotive clear coat that I like to use. Those wheels. Just looking through that in the interior too there. But this was a fun kit to build. For me, it was a nice little break. Just pick something and just kind of enjoy the build here on this one. The Hemi and the suspension and everything went together really well. So yeah, really enjoyed this one. You know, the other two were fun too. So I think it really got me kind of excited about building it. You know, enjoyed building the first Plymouth, the mule car, and then, you know, built the second one, and the paint job on that one was a little bit more tedious, but that one came out awesome. And then, so I was pretty excited about building this one when it came out. So this thing's looking really good. All right, we'll head back on inside. All right, now when it comes to this kit, I really didn't do much to it modifications wise. This is the Model King kit, Moebius models, and they say they're limited editions with the Model King, but you know, so I made sure, you know, I got one from my sponsor, Hobby Nut Models, and you know, get a few more. And I did manage to pick up some more decals to do a couple of different versions. I do have the Dick Landy decals, so I can do that version. And I also got the Hustle and Hemi decals, which can do both the, you know, one or the other, but the 68 Hemi Dart or the 65 Coronet altered wheelbase. And I think they had a non-altered wheelbase version of that car. But this one, I was having a little bit of fun with, and there's a couple of things that, you know, I did to it, but I really didn't tweak or modify the kit that much. Couple of the variations, I decided I was going to keep the passenger seat in it because the restored car doesn't have a passenger seat, but the brackets are there. But the restored car has a white roll bar in it. So I followed those things. And, you know, I placed the decals and followed all of that. The decals are right from the restored car, with the one exception. I did get asked previously why I didn't use this decal. And, you know, I did see some race pictures that had this decal on the hood, roof, I mean. I initially thought it went on the trunk, but then I realized it doesn't fit back there. It's way too big, kind of an odd looking decal. But it would go right on the roof here, and I could add it if I wanted it to. But when I was looking at the vintage pictures, there were more sponsored decals here, and a couple more like here and here. So, you know, since none of those decals were provided either, and I could identify some of them, but I wasn't too worried about it. And then this one was on the roof. And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm just going to keep it true to the restored car. I like it like this. You know, I'm not feeling this Dodge one on the roof that much. But I do have it. I could add it. But that's why I left it off after finding out. And it's not mentioned anywhere in these directions here. The pictures that are on the box and everything, you know, they're really not shown. So it really doesn't give you full on, yeah, here it is. In the directions, you can see it's not on there in this one. And the instructions really don't tell you exactly where the decals go. You got the reference pictures, but, you know, they're not mentioned in the instructions. But, you know, I went ahead and did that. One of the things I did do, but you really can't see it. You can, but you can't. I did sand off the passenger side of the dash to get rid of the radio and the glove box to smooth it all out like the race car. Under the dash, you can kind of see it right there. I did add the 3-gauge cluster. That's from my spares box, but I did see that was in one of the kits recently on something else that I was taking apart. So I believe it's in like the AMT 69 Barracudas. It has that in it, which, you know, I've had a number of those. But and then, you know, I had some fun detailing the underside of it. I went for the over-restored look, which is, how the real car was. Dick Landy's car, he blacked the whole underside out. He'd like to do that to his cars, to hide any of the tweaks or modifications he did to the suspension. He liked to do that. Now, the model kit has the Dana 60 in it. The restored car has the Dana 60 in it. So I pretty much copied everything as it appeared. Even putting, this piece on here, which it does fit. It's kind of mentioned. It's hidden off in the directions in a spot or two. And then this, the parachute came out pretty nice, but I had to sand the corners, get it to fit inside that bumper and snug down quite a bit. There's a tiny little decal right there, a little bell decal. Again, not mentioned in the instructions, but it's there. But tweaked out a little bit. And I also decided I was going to use the mag wheels in the back and the front instead of just in the front. And I also cut the stacks down like the instructions say to get the 6mm out of them so that the scooped hood would fit. So that's one of the things I wanted to do. Plus, this car, it's got its manual transmission in it. The other ones have automatics in it, but most of them apparently were raced with the automatics. But so the Dick Landy car, same thing. Apparently started as a stick car, but went to an automatic. So that stuff's kind of interesting. But this was a lot of fun. And I decided to go with the single headlight grill, even though this car had pictures of both. The Dick Landy had pictures of both. But this is the grill I always think of. And one thing Moebius did do, and you can see in this picture, when they deleted these, they actually took a second grill, cut it, and moved them farther out and kind of riveted them in place. But to get them to fit, they bent it, so they poke out a bit more. Now, Moebius put that detail in there, and when you black it out, it really stands out. And I like that. That looks pretty cool. And it's got the clear headlights in there. So it looks pretty good. But, when I look at it and compare it to the Golden Commandos, this is the mule car. So I did the early version with this one with the cross ram Hemi in it. So I kept this the early version. But it was the mule car. And I put an 8 3/4 in it like the originals did. And this one's got an automatic in it. But this one, I actually left the dash completely alone. So it's got the radio in it, which you can see in there. So it's got the radio and stuff in it. And the horn ring. It's one of the things I did cut away on the Dodge is remove the horn ring. But, these were fun to build. And then the other Golden Commandos is right here. I did the later cars as raced with the higher tuned stacks, which I was reading. This had to do with RPM and the sonic shockwave when they shifted, when the engine RPM stalled a little bit. So it was interesting reading about, the tuning and the theories in that as well. But when I did this one, I did put I leave the 8 3/4, the Dana 60 in there. Left the automatic, but did this one a little bit more stock, but I did remove the glove box detail on this one too, and the horn ring. So I made this one a little bit more racy as far as that stuff went too. But I had some fun building all of these. So there'll be another one or two, some of these factory racers. The Moebius kit was a lot of fun. Looking forward to doing the 65 Mercury Comet as well. Those seem really cool. I got a couple of those kits. And they just announced the BFX small block one. So I'm kind of looking forward to that too, even though I'm not the biggest fan of racers, but I like building them with all the decals and the race look to them and everything. But I don't get too much into exactly how they are. Did a lot of GT40 race cars too. Those are kind of fun. But anyway, you guys, I thought this would be kind of fun to show you and share with you. And I enjoyed building it. It was kind of a quick build for me, so I didn't spend a whole lot of time focusing on filming it. But it went together really well, and I really didn't have too many issues, but there were a few with this one. But not too bad, because most of the parts were designed for the Plymouth version, and so they didn't quite fit as well with the Dodge body and everything. But everything went well, and I got past all of it. But you guys, thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all your comments and everything. I really do appreciate you guys. And you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next time.